Welcome to Celon Pharma meeting. I would like to ask all of you to mute your microphones so that we don't have any technical problems. The objective of today's meeting is the report or the announcement that we published yesterday about the extraordinary meeting of shareholders. So this is going to be the subject of our presentation. There will be a comment, an announcement from the board about the key issues that will be decided on the 16th of February. There is the management board here, Mr. Maciej Wieczorek, Madam Iwona Giedronowicz, and Mr. Jacek Glinka, who will be referring to some of the important issues that have been so far announced. We will have a Q&A session, and during that question and answer session, you'll be able to ask your questions. So please let us know via the chat functionality or type in your questions into the chat window. Now over to the CEO. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome. My name is Maciej Wieczorek. I'm the CEO, but today with me is also Jacek Glinka. Jacek, please identify yourself. Yes, this is me. Jacek is the vice president, and we have Iwona Giedronowicz with us, member of the board and our CFO. Good morning. Before we tell you about the offering of shares and about the resolution of the shareholders meeting, I would like to share my presentation with you so that I can tell you a little bit more about the reasons behind those decisions taken by the shareholders meeting in order to launch an offering of shares. It's an offering, plus there is a number of additional, let's say, activities around our incentive program and around our shift towards international financial reporting standards. First of all, I believe that all of you can see in a positive light the fact that we have been very systematic, very consistent in this company in the process of building one of the most efficient and successful R&D organizations in the sector. This fact, together with the fact that we have been very profoundly analyzing the situation. Recently, we've been running analysis at the level of our management board, and all this has led to the fact that we have a very good idea about how the company within the next 5 years can become the largest biotech company in this part of Europe, a company that's very strong in terms of its R&D pipeline, innovative drugs, a lot of transactional potential, diversified portfolio and pipeline, well-balanced, sustainable, given the size of the market and given regulatory risks, and of course, transactional risks. So what we do today, or what we have been doing in the recent years, we're planning to scale up. We have all the tools and all the resources in place. Right now, it seems like we have the strongest team, again, in this region of Europe. We have over 160 scientists and researchers, dozens of people working in different, let's say, supporting or auxiliary departments. We do have all the necessary resources. Let me remind you that several months ago, we opened the most modern R&D center, again, in this part of Europe. And the only thing that is left to be done in order to make sure we are at the right level of efficiency is securing sustainable funding for our needs. So here I'm talking about the offering of shares that we are planning, additional round of offering. Again, I would like to share my presentation with you. We have run into slight delays, so Jacek Glinka will be sharing the presentation any moment now. Our actions aimed at identifying our funding needs for the next 5 years have led us to the conclusion that we need to initiate an offering of shares. And I would like to say that it is a natural step. It's something that we have that we already indicated during our initial offering, and I would say it's a rational step. It's a step that perfectly fits with the nature of our international presence. So, moving on to specifics, because I think that this is all very relevant and interesting for all of you, I would like to show you what had led us to the specific amount of the offering, or specific size of the offering, and the amount of shares that we are going to offer. Now I would like to move my presentation. Right. So, as you can see, we would like to show you our capital requirements that we see for the coming 5 years for this company. 80% or even more of those requirements are related with innovative drugs. So there is a number of projects that we have. So we would like to fund 12 to 14 projects for novel innovative drugs for phase 2. But also, we would like to be prepared, be ready to fund 4 to 5 programs. And when I say programs, I mean specialist indications. So specialized drugs for phase 3. So Celon Pharma 2025, I would say 2/3 of our projects will be innovative, and 1/3 would be specialized indications, where we would like to also build our sales network wherever it's economically viable. So we're talking about rare indications that are in neuropsychiatry, regionally in the European Union, and rare autoimmune-mediated diseases and those indications. And here we're talking both about the European Union and regions outside of the European Union. As you well know, right now we have 5 projects in clinical trials, 2 in phase 2, 3 in phase 1, but we have, of course, a number of projects in preclinical trials, and several of them will enter the clinical phase in the next several months. We have a number of projects that we call second-generation projects, biotechnological drugs, using the latest, the hottest biotech solutions like protein conjugates or bispecific monoclonal antibodies or CARs. So these are our needs in terms of innovative products and the latest technologies. We do have a number of sources of income, let's say, or sources of revenue that we want to take on board. Or first of all, we're talking about non-refundable subsidies. And in the coming years, especially when we're talking about the European Union, well, things shouldn't be changing. So we're anticipating some subsidies. However, those subsidies are confined to the second phase. But we're also anticipating some milestone payments from 3 to 4 license agreements The first or the earliest project from which we're anticipating payments is ketamine, but I would like to indicate that most of our licensing agreements are multi-year agreements, so those milestones are related to the development and marketing and commercialization of drugs. So a contract that has the value of several hundred million euro, maybe 6 to 8 years in duration. So this is about innovative drugs and innovative projects. So maybe Jacek can elaborate. When it comes to our generic portfolio, we would like to continue our presence and our engagement in this segment. The portfolio that we have here provides very stable, sustainable cash flow for the years to come. Those products are not going to become outdated. We don't see any threats coming from new generation drugs for our therapeutic categories that would lead to lower revenues or lower profitability from our generic portfolio. So we will continue our presence both in Poland and abroad in order to not only maintain but to increase accumulation of funds coming from that particular segment. But Celon today is opening a new chapter in its history of development. So far, we've been focused on generics. Then we started focusing on early phases of novel projects. And a week and a half ago, we finished phase 2 of Valkyria. It's a project that will very soon enter phase 3. And then we're hoping then the project will be ready for market authorization. So it's a new chapter, new vistas and new possibilities. So we think that out of a dozen or so projects that we have in our pipeline, in our portfolio, some can really be projects where we would be the only entity commercializing and marketing those products within the European Union. So I'm talking about products where the right infrastructure to commercialize those products is not too extensive. And the infrastructure is something that Celon Pharma can, let's say, take advantage of. So we want to build the brand of Celon in Europe, maybe for some indications also in the US. Right. Therefore, the comparison of our needs and requirements are quite conservative. Our plans and incoming funds, we have estimated these, but these are just very conservative estimates. But we've done it on purpose, making sure that we don't have any, let's say, financial hiccups, and so that our very ambitious development program can proceed smoothly. So, when we're talking about revenue that we're anticipating, we're excluding our generic portfolio, and we're talking about around 300 million euro. But our financial or capital requirements, when we're talking about investing in new projects, in buying tech licenses or functional and tech licenses around our new biotech projects, and of course extension of our sales network, this is what we're estimating at the level of 480 million euro. So there is a natural capital need requirement, amounts to more than 100 million euro over the next several years. So all this has led us to conclude that we need offering of shares, 13 million shares, is our target capital. And additionally, we're planning to have the opportunity to offer 2 million shares, and we are only planning it whenever there is a lot of demand. So priority rights will go to large shareholders who have at least 1% of our initial capital. And the documents that we will issue will be our prospectus. This prospectus very soon will be filed with the Financial Supervision Authority in Poland, the KNF. So this prospectus, this document, gives us a certain timeline, namely several months. The offering price will be determined in the process of book building, and we will have a broad offering or broadly targeted offering in Poland and outside of Poland. And it is our intent, as we've shown, our rational capital requirements, we want to receive at least 160 million euro from the basic offering of 13 million shares. I believe that you will have quite a lot of questions to that part, so let me move on to the second part, namely the incentive program for our employees. It's of course very much related with our natural need to be a leader internationally in biotech. We have amazing resources, we have great solid projects that we've been developing systematically over time, and we need engaged, motivated, top specialists. So the incentive program that we're planning is a natural solution in order to achieve all these things, and it's something typical for any international strong company. It's a multi-year program. We would like to be able to motivate our people starting today and going into the future in order to be able to attract top talent from around the world. This program, or the size of this program, is up to 200,000 shares a year, which will amount to 0.34% shares a year. And we're talking about this program for key figures in the company, namely the management board, excluding myself. And the program will be also targeted at our remaining employees and individuals that are of key importance for the company. We're talking about a dozen or so, up to several dozen people. This program is being drafted and developed according to best corporate standards. The objectives of the program have been identified. They are being monitored by the supervisory board. And when we're talking about the rest of our employees that the program is aimed at, it's being monitored by the management board. So the offering price is the nominal price, and there is an option to increase this price via a resolution from a shareholders meeting. Maybe we will change our approach in the future. Maybe we will tie that price to our stock prices. But myself, as the main shareholder, I would like to have a natural right to be able to shape a well-balanced, sustainable system that motivates our people successfully to achieve milestones, all the right milestones in our development. So the last part, and yet another component of our plan in order to go into the international arena so that we are part of the group of top companies in our industry. So we're shifting towards international financial reporting standards. Ivona, over to you. Dear ladies and gentlemen, as a result of all our plans to grow and develop, also because we want to fulfill all the natural expectations of the current and future shareholders, the board has decided that this was the right time to change our accounting standards, and the board recommended a change or a shift before the shareholders' meeting. International financial reporting standards have been used widely in biotech and tech industries. So we believe that this will be something that will be more understandable for all the recipients of our reports. New standards will start from the first quarter 2021. So definitely in the first report will discuss these changes broadly so that investors and shareholders understand them better. The differences between those standards, of course, they could merit a separate training session, but the biggest change is about reporting on innovative projects as they progress. Here you see all the numbers on the slide year by year. So it's not cumulated data. The data is not presented cumulatively. It's broken down into different years. Before that, we reported that in financial assets, but after the change, these amounts will be presented in profit and loss sheet. What used to be accruals and deferrals will now be under revenue in our P&L, so that all the shareholders and investors can see the difference between our generic related activities and innovative activities. Our reports will be broken down into segments, generic versus innovative. You can see how things will change. So our revenue will increase because we will include subsidies, but all the other parameters will be shifted. For example, R&D expenditures will go into costs. Our equity and total balance sheet will also go down due to the fact, or it will be related with our net result. So before we publish our report officially, we cannot give you any specifics in terms of our financials, but I'm hoping that the data that we've presented so far is enough for you to assess the direction in which we're going, and we're hoping for your analytical, broad approach, so that you see us more broadly rather than just through these numbers. Ivona, thank you so much. I think that we're done with the presentation for now, so we're ready to take your questions. Please remember that we are subject to a number of disclosures and disclosure-related regulations, so we may not be able to answer all of your questions. So now let us start our Q&A. Right now we have 130 people attending, so please mute your microphones unless you're asking a question. I will ask those questions that we have on the chat, because there's a number of things that have been typed into the chat window, but there will be also people who want to ask their question directly. So is your offering related to the fact that you want to find partners for Valkyria? Do you want to have money so that we're not, let's say, against the wall when you negotiate with possible partners? And when do you think first contracts will be signed on Valkyria? Well, this offering has nothing to do with Valkyria. This offering is part of our long-term requirements, and it's a result of our strategy and a way to fund plenty new projects. When it comes to the transaction, well, we've been informing you on a regular basis. Right now, negotiations and talks are ongoing, and in due time, you will learn all that you need to know about the deal. Of course, the Valkyria is a very important project for us. It's well advanced, but I would like to indicate that the company has more projects than one. We have plenty of projects, plenty of initiatives with huge potential. So we have to think about today, tomorrow, but also about 1 year, 2 and 5 years from now. I would like to ask everyone who's not speaking to mute their microphones. Thank you. Marzena, please mute your microphone. I think we can continue. Janek Piotr is trying to take the floor to ask you a question. Please. Are you there? The floor is yours. I can see that you've raised your hand, so now you can ask your question. So maybe let's move on to the following question from the chat. There is a question, or there is a series of questions on the chat, why we're announcing what we're announcing today, why now, and how this can be related to the deal, to the transaction on Valkyria. Remember, we're doing this offering based on our prospectus. We're talking about months to go before the transaction, and we do not want to link these two things together. And according to our best knowledge, the offering should happen after the deal. But of course, such large projects, such large offering of shares where plenty of organizations are involved. Most of you represent financial institutions, so you know very well that these things do take time to prepare and then to proceed with. The following question, why this emission is happening without subscription rights, and why do you believe that the price will be 55? Will there be people wanting to subscribe based on this price? Well, all those of you who deal with shares valuations, you know it's very difficult. It's this balance is something that's very difficult to estimate, especially that we're talking about a period of 5 or 6 months. So to us, this is at least a fair price, especially given what we're planning to announce in the coming months. The value of the offering, the size of the offering is indicated in euro. So is it something that you're targeting at global investors? This is targeted also to global investors. So those requirements, can you break them down into projects? How much will go to Valkyria? How much will go to other projects? For legal reasons, we cannot disclose. Why is this in incentive program linked with the nominal price? It's not a standard practice. There is a number of systems and approaches. Our incentive program is only a small part of our offering, 0.3% of shares a year, and it only targets a very small group of people within the company. So I believe that this kind of program is something that will be the most successful and the most effective. However, we have a possibility to link this price to what's going to happen on the market with our market stock price. You have been mentioning funding for project of the phase 3. So if you're looking for partners for phase 2, will phase 3 not be funded by your partners? Are you planning to go for funding phase 3 alone? What projects are we talking about? Of course, we cannot disclose all of the details, but I would like to tell you that we would like to, let's say, move out of the box. We don't want to just be a technology provider for phase 1 or 2. So organically, as we've been doing for the last 18 months, we want to take this opportunity to take one step further. So we think it is rational for us to continue to develop our presence so that we can sell our products and market our products in certain therapeutic categories, especially whenever we don't need to invest a lot in distribution and sales networks. So we're talking about rare indications or narrow, specialized therapeutic indications like neuropsychiatry or rare immune-mediated diseases, which are some of our major or most important projects. So one-third of indications, for one-third of indications or drugs, we have an ambition to develop them ourselves in terms of phase 3, so that we have exclusive rights to market these projects. We can have higher margins this way. Do you have investors, international investors from the industry interested in potential collaboration? Right now, we're talking to plenty of international investment funds and financial institutions. And well, these talks are ongoing. So the questions that are coming to us via chat are similar in nature. Mr. Wieczorek talked about expected revenue broken down into different segments. Some of the things we cannot answer in detail. So, do you have more questions? So, are there any more questions to our board members? If you do have questions, I think it's the perfect time to ask your question. I can tell that someone is raising their hand to ask their question. Karol Małecki. Good morning. I would like to ask about your dividend policy related to your offering. Will it change? Our dividend policy will not change. Right now, we have like something between 20 to 50% of our net profit, but according to our new accounting standards, our net profit may go down. The number itself may go down because R&D costs will hit our P&L. Part of these costs, because 50%, we also have subsidies that will go into our revenues, but still the number could go down. But we will have some boosts or milestone payments. So I would expect something like, let's say, a less predictable number of our net profit. It could change from quarter to quarter or from 6 months to 6 months because of those milestone payments that could be boosts. But our policy is not changing, so it's something between 20 to 40, 50% of net profit that could go towards dividends. I don't see any questions on our chat. Is there anyone else who would like to raise their hand to ask a question directly? Right. I can't see anyone. I can't see any new questions coming through our chat window. Well, there is one last question coming in. Why is this offering targeted at investors that hold minimum 1%? That was our decision. To a certain degree, investors who are more involved in the company, we wanted to, let's say, treat them a little bit, to give them a little bit of a special treatment. If I may, I have a question. I would like to ask whether recently maybe you have changed your structure of people who hold more than 1% in your company in the last several weeks. Has something like this changed? You know, the group of people holding more than 1%? Not to our knowledge, no. We don't have this kind of information. We don't know. I can. Well, I think it's been asked before, asking why some of the shareholders don't have subscription rights. Would you like to add something to this? But this question has been asked before. Well, I think we've exhausted the topic. So, if you haven't heard the answer to this question, revisit the recording of this meeting, and of course you can contact our investor relations, all of you. So I can't see any more questions if I don't see any hands raised, so I believe that we can conclude our meeting today. I would like to thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for your attention. And we would like you to continue to follow us and to be with us. We are working very hard to make sure that we can create a strong organization that will deliver breakthrough products for the whole society. Thank you so much.